kids, it's me again. Hereditary. I feel a bit weird because, you know, the past couple of films, this is, yeah, hello to you all, by the way. This is only my third ever video update, and I seem to be doing nothing but bangers. But a friend of mine, Tanya, obviously after creating the channel, she put in requests and said, please do Hereditary. And I was like, absolutely. Because Hereditary is in my top 3 favourite horror films of all time. It is absolutely out of this world. I cannot big this film up enough. It takes a lot for a film to get a 10 out of 10 with me. But anyway, let's go through the whole review first, shall we? Before we get down to those down to that nitty gritty. So, Hereditary, 2018 horror film starring Toni Collette as Annie, Alex Wolff as Peter, Gabriel Byrne as Steve, the father Steve. Gabriel loves a good horror film, doesn't he? Good lad. Directed by Ari Aster, who obviously did Midsommar, but Midsommar came out after this. So going into Hereditary, he was quite sort of unknown. Not really much was known about him, but yeah. Hereditary was the first film that really introduced me to A24. I believe I saw The Witch when it first came out, and I just didn't get it. I don't think I was ready for A24's sort of style, that art house style, sort of slow building, character building, just the storytelling behind it. I think a lot of horror films, especially from Hollywood these days, it's all about jump scares and just lazy, just, you know, jumping straight into it. No character building. Like, I'll ask you the question. When was the last time you watched a proper horror film from America where you actually really cared about the people, the characters? I can't remember one. Maybe Get Out, the protagonist in that. That was the only time when I was really invested. Wanted someone to, you know, get out of that horrible torture. Or is it The Girl Next Door? But that was based on a true story. But anyway, I'm going off track a little bit. But with Hereditary, there's just unbelievable storytelling, unbelievable character building, and they make you really care for the characters. Now, I've discussed this film with so many of my friends recently, and I don't think there's a film out there that deals with grief better than this film. I remember there was a scene involving Peter, just after that horrible scene. So what I'm going to do a non-spoiler review now for the first few minutes, and then I'm going to give some spoilers away. So when I announce that there's going to be spoilers, you can either turn off or you can carry on watching. So something happens. You know, the opening of the film is shrouded in grief anyway, but the family is sort of ostracized. The grandmother of the family passes away, but there's something creepy about the grandmother. She's got like a lot of strange friends. They go to the funeral, and they've never seen half these people, and they're just acting very strange. And it becomes clear after a few minutes that the family are not that beat up about the grandmother being dead. And Annie, especially the mother, that would have been obviously the granny's daughter, she was just like, should I be sad? How should I feel? Gabriel Byrne tries to comfort her and says, you know, you can feel however you want. So it deals with grief in a very sort of drab, very way, which is how some people can feel. I've had family members pass away in Ireland I didn't even know. And then, of course, when they passed away, it was like, how do you feel? And I'm like, I didn't know them. How am I supposed to feel? And then something happens. Something happens in the film. You've probably heard a lot of people talk about it. It's that scene. And that happens about sort of half an hour in. So not really much happens. And then this scene happens. And it's the build-up, it's the fallout afterwards that will live with me forever. It was just absolutely horrific. But not in a horror kind of terms. More of a sort of family-driven you know, it's one thing when you're sitting there and you're watching a horror film and a big bad guy jumps out of the closet. Ugh. You know it's fake. You know it's set up. It's a movie. But what's the biggest horror that anyone can go through in life? It's grief, losing a loved one. It's the most horrific feeling in the world, isn't it? It grabs you by the throat and pulls it down. And that's what Hereditary does. Better than any film I've ever seen. It just, oh my God, just thinking about it. Like, I sometimes I'll put the clip on, like I'll show friends. I get goosebumps just by looking at the trailer, just by looking at clips of it. But, so not to give away any spoilers yet then, so you move on from that scene. It starts to go into a little bit of a supernatural type film after that. Like, it tries to go all seance-y. That was my only criticism. That is the only time in the film when I was just like, oh God, they're not going down this route, are they? But it was done for a reason. And the reason will become very, very clear. Toni Collette was absolutely insanely good in this film. She should have won an Oscar. She was nominated for it, but she should have cleaned up. For one scene alone, there's a dinner scene where Tony's struggling to try and hold the family together. And after everything that's happening, no spoilers, you know, all of the grief and all of the heartache has gone on her shoulders, and she just snaps and has this absolute unbelievable rant at the family. And that doesn't really involve many spoilers, a little bit. But if you haven't seen the film, look out for that bit. She should have won an Oscar for that scene alone. But a massive shout has to go out to Alex Wolff as well, who plays Peter. He goes through some unbelievable suffering in this film. Wow, it's just like, God. So I'm going to try and get to some spoilers now in a minute. So I'm going to rate it now, and then I'm going to go into some spoilers. Hereditary, for me, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. It absolutely shook me to my core. I've watched a lot of horror films over the years, and Hereditary done something different. It tapped into grief and agony of, you know, losing a loved one like no film has ever done in my lifetime I've seen. It's a completely different kind of horror. And it's also probably taps into like the most real horror that people could go through in real life, rather than, you know, a horrible entity coming to get you. It was concentrated grief. That's all I can say. I've shown this film to about 5 or 6 close friends of mine, and 2 of them have broke down in tears. And like most people agree that scene that I'm about doing the spoilers will live with them forever. So Hereditary, 10 out of 10. And I'll be honest, you've seen now I've done 3 videos. One I've given a 9 out of 10, and another I've given an 8.5. I never give 10s. 10s are only reserved for Hereditary, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Aliens, which is my favourite film of all time. So they're the only 3 that get a 10. So don't think that I'm some Lily White kind of, you know, dishing out, oh, I love everything. So anyway, I'm going to say some spoilers now. So if you haven't seen this film, turn off now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So again, in spoilers. That scene. You know what I'm talking about. When Charlie gets decapitated. I remember watching that the first time. And after Charlie gets decapitated, and Peter is so scared he can't even look in the rear view mirror. And he just drives off really slowly, like he takes his foot off the brake and you just see the car just go like that. And he just drives home like nothing happened. And I remember the first time I watched that film, I was absolutely fucking livid. I was screaming at the screen. I was like, what's he fucking doing? Call the police, call your mum. But it's only after I watched the film a second time and speaking to friends, grief affects everyone differently. And that film opened my eyes that grief can come in all shapes and sizes. And he just blocked it out and just pretended nothing happened. And then so he gets into bed just after he's accidentally decapitated his baby sister while she was sticking her head out of a window, having an allergic reaction, which was all set up by the grandmother's cult, by the way. Every single thing that happens in Hereditary is set up by the grandmother's cult. Every single scene, every single death scene, every single nuance is set up by the grandmother's cult. And it's just absolutely fucking terrifying. But the scariest part was when Toni Collette wakes up in the morning and the camera just zooms in on Peter's face, and he's obviously in bed like this, sideways, just staring like this. And then all you can hear is Toni Collette's screams in the background. Ah! And it just goes on, and it goes on for about 3 or 4 minutes. Whilst the camera sort of pan away at Peter, and then eventually it goes on to Toni Collette, and she's still screaming, and then you see the little girl's casket going into the ground, and then the camera follows it into the ground while she's still screaming. A24, their filmmaking is just fucking out of this world. It's just nuance or art house. I've used this term before, but the way they do it, the way they style it, is just fucking out of this world. And then, of course, you know, for those who have seen the film, it's an elaborate scheme that then comes out later on in the film, that the reason that Charlie had a head cut off was all part of a plan, because she had one of the 8th kings of hell inside her body, inside her. So she had this 8th king of hell called Payman inside her body. But you can see in the book afterwards that the king needed to be born into a male host. So they decapitated the little girl, and then they latched onto Peter and drew him down, beat him down into submission until he was completely and utterly just like a vegetable. They put him through some unbelievable torture, seeing his father burnt to death, seeing his mother chop her own head off with piano wire, smashing his face in the classroom with, you know, these little possessed moments. Charlie's soul torturing him everywhere he goes, you know, everywhere he goes. That shit will live with me forever. And then eventually it gets to the, you know, the majestic end. He's crowned King Payman with Charlie's soul, the little girl's soul, put inside him. Now, the ending is a bit batshit crazy, and I remember the first time I saw it, I was just like, it was almost too much. You had 3/4 of a film, which is like a family drama, and then it goes into some fucking crazy witchcraft, fucking occult, you know, Satanist stuff. And for a lot of people, it turned them off. But for me, it just added to the glory. It was just beautiful. Such a fantastic film. Absolutely brilliant. I will say this, I've never seen a recent film that's been more polarized, yes, than this one. So many people hate it. I see it all over these horror groups. So many people say it's the biggest waste of time. And so many people say exactly the opposite. They say it's a masterpiece. There's no in between. There's no like, you know, it's alright. It's either it's fucking useless or it's the best thing ever, and I'm in the category best thing ever. And the fact that I've given it a 10, and it's now in my top 3 horrors of all time, and I've been watching horrors since I was 8. I've probably seen about 1,000. That speaks volumes for me personally. But you know, fear is subjective, just like comedy. I can't tell you what you're going to like. I'm just telling you this is my opinion. And Hereditary, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. And it's the best American horror film I've seen in 20 years. Hands down. Drop mic. Okay, that's it. This is it for another edition of Horror Noise. I'm going to shoot now. I think I've waffled on quite a lot now. 15 minutes this one. That's how much it means to me. But anyway, thank you for everyone who's been giving me all the support and all the encourage. I really appreciate it. especially to Aidan, who's going to be providing me with a special camera real soon. I appreciate that, mate. Thank you so much for your help with that. I am going to now ask for like and subscribe if you can, and share with your friends, because then that will help build it up more. And apparently commenting helps as well. So if you can leave me a cheeky little comment in the comment section and like and subscribe, that would be fantastic. All right, take care. See you later.